When I think of rest, I think of Jesus by the shore on the Sea of Galilee. He was preaching to a huge crowd, and the crowd kept coming in, until he was forced to get into a boat and move out a little bit into the lake, and then preach from there, where he sat. And as Mark describes it in his gospel, people stood the entire wonder and hope and healing. At the end of the day, he was the disciples rowed him across the lake, but before they reached the other shore, a huge storm came up and threatened to swamp the boat. Jesus was still asleep, and the disciples in fear cried out, "Lord, save us!" Jesus awoke then, and only then. He stood up, and he rebuked the wind and the seas, saying, "Peace, be still." At once, all was calm. And the disciples said, "Who is this man that even the wind and the seas obey him?" I would have said the same thing, wouldn't you? Last week, I had a stormy week. There was a lot of howling winds, and the waves threatened to swamp me. But at the end of that week, I heard Jesus' voice. It came in the form of Sabbath. And Jesus said, "Peace, be still." Enjoy the journey.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to day 4 of our 8 days. We are looking at our health and we are taking some steps. They may feel like baby steps, and that is just fine. Please, before we get any further, be sure to write down in the comments where you are joining us from, or you can answer this question: how do you define rest? How do you define rest? Make sure that I know that you're here, because then I will be able to share a gift with you at the end of these 8 days. One of those gifts are this stack of cards that are uh, quick reminders of the commitment we're making to our health. This one is on rest, and there are, I think, 3 others in the stack. And this one says, "Slow down and enjoy life. It's not only the scenery you miss by going too fast, you also miss the sense of where you are going and why." So, again, be sure to comment. Let me know how you define the word rest. Now, I am grateful that we've been able to journey through these 8 days with some special guests, and we have another special guest with us here today. Before I introduce her, I want to remind you that if you haven't been able to listen every day, tune in every day, you can always look back. Maybe you're joining us from Facebook, maybe you're joining us from our YouTube channel. No matter where you're joining us from, you should be able to go right back to that spot and find the recordings from the previous 3 days. So please don't hesitate to watch those, learn, grow with us in this process in these 8 days. Another reminder, we will meet tomorrow, then we take Saturday off, and then we'll be back for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Tuesday will be our day 8, our last day together. If you have not actually registered for these 8 days, not a problem. If you have, though, that means that you have this book in your possession, or if you registered a little late, it's coming to you. And at the end of each of these chapters, there are some really great tips and exercises that help to reinforce the message, help to reinforce the lesson. And so after today's lesson on rest, there'll be some exercises that you can take part in at the end of the chapter. And if you don't have the book, I'm going to try to share, if we have time, a couple of the tips that are at the end. But for those of you who have the book, give yourself some time to sit with the chapter, sit with what you've learned, and grow a little bit more in your understanding. For today, that will be your understanding of rest. Now, I want to introduce to you someone who I've known for several years now, and I have enjoyed spending time with her. I've enjoyed being part of the same sort of ministry context as her. She used to be out here in Georgia, and I've been blessed by her ministry, and I've been blessed by her friendship. And I'll tell you a quick funny about our friendship. I have two young kids now, 4 and 6. A couple of years ago, I was talking about somebody mentioning that he was a pastor. I don't remember who it was. And my girl said, "Boys are pastors?" And I just had to laugh because I realized inadvertently, most of the pastors they knew, like consciously, really consciously knew at their young age, were women. And of course, knowing me, they put it all in that context. And so it was quite humorous for me to experience that. But what better person to experience that with? Now, let me tell you a bit about our guest for today. Let me just get that information up here. Um, Her name is Pastor Jessie López Abdul-Karim. And let me actually read you something about her instead of trying to speak off the top of my head, which is not a good thing to do. Okay. So sorry, folks. I'm just late at getting my technology um, in place. So here we go. Pastor Jessie López Abdul-Karim was born and raised in New York City to Puerto Rican parents. Culture, family, and food have influenced how she approaches ministry. She strongly believes in providing safe places with no agenda for people to feel belonging. Pastor Jessie loves people and does not shy away from the tough conversations, even if she is a self proclaimed hardcore introvert. Jessie holds a Master in Divinity degree, and a Master in Social Work degree from Andrews University, and has been pastoring for the last 8 years. She's currently the young adult and missions pastor, at Azure Hills Church in California. Jessie is duly married to her best friend, Pastor Robert Abdul-Karim, and looks forward to doing life, family, and ministry together with him. Lastly, Jessie claims that pizza in California doesn't come close to pizza found back in New York, but she's willing to keep searching one pizza slice at a time. So, without further ado, welcome, Jessie, to these 8 days and to day 4. I am so grateful that you're here with us.
I'm so glad to be here with you, Michaela.
Yeah.
And that is true. I keep searching for that pizza on the West Coast, but it does not compare. Does not compare.
One day, maybe.
One day, maybe. But yeah, I'm so glad to be here with you all tonight, especially just sharing my journey with rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one thing, as you said, my journey, that made me think of the fact that one thing I've shared before in these 8 days is that I haven't asked people to come on here because they're some like expert on the topic, right? So you truly are speaking from your experience. And so from that experience, Jessie, how do you define rest?
Yeah. So for me, I would have to say it first started with rest was just sleep, right? Oh, I need to get my sleep in.
Yeah.
But with time, I realized that rest is really restoration, not only for my physical body, but for my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because it's one thing to get your hours in of sleep, but when I was raised, like I said, in New York City, right? You have this culture that is like nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, in a Caribbean household, it's, the more you do, it's like success. And so learning that from my parents, my dad had a full-time job, but then volunteered at like 3 other organizations, plus was head elder, plus was Pathfinder director and area coordinator for the conference. My mom was a staff developer. She's a teacher. She then also did 2 after-school program jobs. Plus, she was the church treasurer. So that was my household. So for me, rest was just sleep. Like whenever you get the hours in, that's it.
Yeah.
But I had to learn with time that rest really is restoration, taking intentional periods to say, you know what, I physically can't do this. Let me take time to rest. Let me
Mm-hmm.
restore my body, whether that's through massages or
Mm.
through, hot baths or walks. And let me also restore my soul, which is for me, the Sabbath is such a huge part of restoring my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of like my definition is really restoration.
Mm-hmm.
Rest,
Mm-hmm.
restoration.
Awesome. And one of our listeners, Mary Beth, said, "Restoration, love that. Yes, indeed."
Yes,
It's
yes,
like one of these, like I feel like that in itself, every Sabbath could be a hashtag, right? Because I feel like there's such fullness in that word that we miss from just rest.
hmm
Just because of how we have done rest. Um, it's not that the word is lesser or something, but just because of how we've practiced rest as just catching some sleep,
right.
the word restoration just feels like, oh, okay.
It's so much deeper. There's
Yeah.
so much more to that word restoration. Is like it's more intentional. It's
Yes.
not
Yes.
just saying, okay, I'm gonna get, my sleep, but I'm gonna take the time of my day. How can I get rest today? Or how can I restore my body? How can I
Mhm.
restore my soul today?
Mhm.
And I think that intentional aspect is what was shared in the video when Jesus had to take his time away from the crowd to get his restoration from
Yep.
God, right? From
Yep.
God the Father. So yeah, rest is definitely restoration.
Mhm. That's awesome. I get it's like I just want to sit with that, you know? I just want to
Yes.
sit with that. Because like you said, it's intentional. Like you have to like I have this picture of restoring like an old piece of furniture or something. You
Mm.
can't restore an old piece of furniture by just like dusting it off. Like that is not
Mhm.
restoration. But how many
Mhm.
of us are like that's how we're treating ourselves, right? We're
Yeah.
just kind of dusting off the it's
Yeah.
like you have crumbs on your face from eating and you just kind of like that's kind of what we're doing with the way
Yeah.
that we practice rest. But restoration, like you got to actually put time into that process.
Yeah.
You have to want it.
And I think what you said in the beginning was just so beautiful how we're still on the journey, right?
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
haven't like perfected each thing. And rest, I'm still learning,
Yeah.
right? For me, I think when I was really intentional was actually when my mom passed. And
Mm.
when she passed away, it was like a hit. But then I was like, whoa, I need to stop and pause and like contemplate what happened.
Mhm.
And then when we stop and pause and realize that we can't go so much, taking that time to intentionally work on our bodies and do self-care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then we can be in tune with that journey and
Mhm.
saying like, oh, what I was doing 2 years ago is not what I'm doing right now,
Mhm.
currently.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and that journey is okay because it's a process.
Mhm. Mhm. It so when you said like 2 years ago is not what's happening now, like it makes me think of our devotional lives and how
Mm.
sometimes we beat up ourselves, right? Because it's like I used to be
Yes.
so good,
Oh my goodness. Come on. Preach,
You know?
Michaela. Yes.
I used to be so focused, so dedicated. I got in the time with Jesus every morning, and now it's not there. What am I doing wrong? How can I shift? And so being able to say, okay, Remind yourself, this is a journey. This is a journey. And God is not over my shoulder, like
Mhm,
cussing me out because
mhm,
I'm not where
mhm.
He would love me to be. But yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. Now you mentioned your mom's passing as being this pivotal point.
Yes.
Would you say that that's when you started to deeply value rest?
Yes. I think it was at that point, one, um, being able to sit and just evaluate and see where my life was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the value of success, right? Being raised in a Caribbean household, always being on the move,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing, like, wait a second, at any moment, people that we love may not be here. How can I now value who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and value my friends. Because I think being raised in New York City and having parents that were just so involved in their local community, but also in their church community, and seeing that awesome value of giving back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did not see how they gave back to themselves.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
And so, like, and it was during that, moment that I was like, I need to learn how to give back to myself. And this is really when my master's of social work kicked in. It was like, okay, this happened. Logically, you need some self care. Now, I didn't
mhm,
know how to do this at
right,
all. The only thing I knew was, Jessie, you need to go to therapy. And that's
mhm,
how it all started,
mhm,
6 years ago, back in 2015. And that is what kind of started my journey of being intentional with my rest and valuing my personal life.
mhm,
Because if Jesus created me, if God created me, there's something special there. And I need to
mhm,
take care of myself.
mhm, mhm. That's not selfish. That's
No,
not
it's not.
frou-frou. That's
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, mercy. I feel like because now we're in a culture that in some ways values self-care more than before, it can be
Yes.
easy to feel as if you're just kind of getting swept away in a fad maybe, or pop culture or whatever, and it's like, oh no, but my self-care can't look like that. Like earlier when you
Mhm.
mentioned massage, it's just like, yes and amen, but for
Right.
many people that probably is just like,
Yeah.
it's not that they don't like it, it's that they don't think that they should do that, like that's too much. um
Right.
and hey, for some people's bank account, that is too much, so don't do it. But there's probably something else that is just fine for your bank account that may not even cost anything, you know,
Right.
that will give you that time and space that you need. So, so what does rest look like in your life now?
Yeah. So rest, how it looks like now compared to my journey, I would say swimming in the mornings. I know that sounds crazy because that's activity and that's exercise. But the swimming for me is so therapeutic, being in the
Mm,
water, hearing the strokes. It's kind of like my time with God.
mm,
Um, and after I do my swim, it's like everything is just clear. I'm at
mm,
peace
mhm,
and I can start my day.
mhm.
Along with that, what I love, that's kind of, I would say, on a daily basis, but and I actually got this from you, Michaela.
Mm.
In how I know you're like, what? So on Friday nights, I light a candle. I like to light candles. And I
Oh,
remember
nice.
coming over one time, you're like, yeah, this is a Sabbath candle. And I was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that is such a great idea. I'm stealing that. Um, so like for Fridays, because for me, like Sabbath, as a pastor, you're doing a lot of daily. So I was like, how can I make this day special for me?
Mhm,
And something that I actually started was during the pandemic. I would buy bouquets of flowers,
nice.
all different kinds, take them, put them in my kitchen and just like trim them, smell them, arrange
Mm.
them in different vases, and put them in different areas in my home with like my candles lit. Like I'm telling you, like it was
Ooh,
a process. It takes like 1, 2 hours sometimes.
that's nice.
this is after I clean and do my daily chores, of course, but I, after you work, but you need that, restoration, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
restores my soul, which is
Mm.
oh, I can breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that. It's something I picked up recently,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that I can admire in nature.
Right.
Um, and then I also love, I used to do this a lot more, and was just hiking here in California. There's a lot of trails. And once you get to the mountaintop, you're just you can just stand there and be there for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's I'm just still sitting in the visual of all your bouquets.
Yes. Sometimes I buy three, but usually it's two.
Okay,
Whenever
okay.
whenever I had a rough week, I'm like, I'm gonna get three today. And it's great. I love it. The fresh flowers.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's something about it. I think like the trimming, and then like putting, oh, this bouquet didn't belong there, but I'm putting you together,
Mm, mhm,
and just
mhm.
seeing the different colors, and I don't know, it works for me.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. It's like you hit a
Hmm.
pause button and
Hmm.
just let yourself be. Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah. That I love that. One of our
Yeah.
viewers just put up two hands. Yes.
Yes.
High five,
Yeah.
high 10, like hallelujah.
Hmm.
Um, when you talked about swimming in the morning,
Hmm.
like it made me think of, okay, do you think you could have done this, and do you think it would have been helpful to you like it is now, say 10 years ago?
Oh no, not at all. To me, it would be work 10 years
Mm,
ago.
okay.
Actually, I think it was, no, it was about 7 years ago that I was training for a marathon. And this is a
Mm.
great story because when I trained for my marathon, I did not rest.
Oh, wow.
I had my rest days, but I did not restore my muscles. And to
Mhm.
this day, I know I can feel my body. Um, it was really trauma because of
Mm.
that time, like I'm still like trying to survive, which is why
Wow.
I think I picked up swimming, because it relaxes my muscles.
Mhm.
But yeah, 10 years ago, I was not in that mindset at all.
Mhm.
For me, rest was, and this is interesting, rest was sitting in front of the TV,
Yeah.
binging on Netflix.
Yeah.
But what that really did was make me numb. It
Mhm.
didn't restore me. It
Mhm.
just gave me something to do.
Yes. 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 God and I have been talking about that
Mm.
lately.
Now, sometimes I need to just take some hours and binge, but I think knowing now, being
Mhm.
aware, self-aware of, okay, this activity is not being helpful to me right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, mhm.
Now, what about like I know this is something I struggle with, is switching gears, right? So you've talked about like going for a swim, you've talked about, lighting a candle, having all these flowers. Um, how do you get there? How do you
Mhm.
stop whatever it was you were doing and switch gears? Do you have like a pre a pre-rest before the rest? Like what are you going through in order to switch gears? Because I would guess that many of us, the reason why we don't rest is in part because we don't know how, but also like it's not just that we don't know what to do in the rest, we don't know how to get there, you know? So how do you get there?
Yeah. So I struggle with this. I do not know how to do the switching of the gears quickly.
Mhm.
I have to actually put it in the schedule.
Mhm.
Like, I have to arrange my day for it, which
Mhm.
shows the intentionality behind it.
Yeah.
Just because my default is really how I was raised, to just keep going, 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 going,
Yeah.
to the point where Then if I don't put it in my schedule intentionally, I get the migraines. I get the
Mm.
cramps. Like my body will tell me now,
Wow.
like, Jessie, you need to rest.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
where before I would get it and I kind of just push through it. But if I were to get a migraine, I'm like, nope, I need to sit this out and be intentional and take care of myself.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
having that narrative kind of change in your mind,
Mhm.
being aware of the different activities that cause you to be tired, like take note of those things. And so that's what I had to do, and that's kind of what I'm doing. Okay, this doesn't work well, so I have to put rest in my schedule because I'm
Mhm.
tired.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think giving yourself permission was the biggest kind of relief that I was able to receive in this journey, because, saying, okay, I'm taking this day off to intentionally rest,
Yeah.
and that is okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I need to just put it in my schedule.
Mhm.
It does
Mhm.
not come natural.
Yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
don't, and when I forget to put it in my schedule, my body will tell me.
And then it's like you have to do extra rest at that point.
Yes. I don't know how we did it back in undergrad. Like literally, I did not rest at all these all-nighters. And like after, if we did an all-nighter, we were okay the next day. But now it's like, if I don't intentionally rest, I have to do it, like it's like double time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, what role have like friends and family played in your ability to rest? Because like as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking, this way of life would be easier with a community doing the same thing, but not everyone has that, right? And that's one of the things that makes life changes difficult is when you're like the only one in your household or the only one among your friend circle that's making a shift and everyone else is still doing the whatever. Um, that's it's kind of a lonely journey. So
Mhm.
how have other people helped you in learning to rest?
Yeah. Um, I think one, just me being vocal of that I need this.
Mhm.
Um, I remember just starting this journey with and telling my dad, because I don't know, I feel like he still doesn't know how to rest, but he's learning. I love him. I love you, Papi. Um, but just having conversations and them, I think out of these relationships, and really the core, because they love you, they start to understand and to
Mhm.
value this new aspect, um, and new value that you're trying to adopt. And so,
Mhm.
even though it's foreign to them, um, they're gonna see, and then they're gonna see how you change, and they're gonna be
Mhm.
like, okay, there's something here.
Mhm.
And I remember just having a meal with my dad. We were out, and he was ready. The check came, he was ready to go. And I was like, no, man, let's sit and chill. And he
Yeah.
was like, what? I was like, where do we have to go? Like,
Nice.
and like, because part of the restoration is just slowing down your life,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And now sometimes he'll send me a text, hey, I stopped during my way, when I went to eat, I didn't leave quickly. I'm
Nice.
learning, like,
Nice. Nice.
so that's definitely, you can definitely influence your community.
Mhm.
uh, and I think the more that you're in tune with the things that you value, the more you rub off. It
Mhm.
is difficult because sometimes people look at you like you're strange. Because I think I am one of the people that will say, well, I have to take my rest. Like, I need to like restore. I can't go. Like,
Mhm.
and we're like, I don't get it. I think even though it's more accepted now, it's still very rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think is important to intentionally build community where you belong and you feel accepted.
Mhm.
Um, but to be honest, I really haven't had a community that like um, I can do this with. Although I'm
Mm.
forcing my husband to swim with me, which is great. But he
Awesome.
needs to swim in his own lane.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need
yeah.
my own lane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, like for me, I just had to start on my own.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, communicating your intention. It it's oftentimes so difficult because you feel like the change you're making, um, I mean, the change in itself is so challenging to begin with. Then to communicate the change, you're worried about what other people will think, how they'll respond. Um, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's
It
worth it.
is. It is. And I think finding people that value you as a person will
Mhm.
definitely value your choices.
Mhm.
At first, my husband didn't understand.
Mm.
I was like, after a full day, I need a full day where I can rest.
Mhm.
And he was like, okay. And now, like, he understands.
Mhm.
But at first, it was like, why can't you just come? Because, like I said in my bio, I'm a hardcore introvert too. Um, but I think it's having people that love you,
Yeah.
like, and surrounding yourself with people that love you. They're going to take into account who you are, because if you're sharing love to yourself, they're going to love that and they're going to
Mhm.
respect that.
Mhm. 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 And love, not like, but love.
Yes, yeah, unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Yeah.
These
Yeah.
are people that intentionally like care about your well-being.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. 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 I can just imagine someone hearing this and thinking, "Man, I got to do some community shifting in order to, achieve my goals, whatever the
Yeah,
goals may be, whether it's rest or
yeah,
something else." Um, but but yeah, it's valid. It's real. Um, Another question for you, Jesse.
yes.
So there are eight principles of health that we're looking at.
Hmm.
Let me put them up on the screen here so that, well, not all of them. I'm just going to put the word creation up so that I can then remember what the letters are that I need to be sort of spelling out here. So C stands for choice. Then we have rest, environment, as in the environment that we create for ourselves, not just like, do you recycle? A is for activity, which is activity of the body and also of the mind. T is trust in God. I is our interpersonal relationships. O is outlook. And N is nutrition. How do you see rest
Mm.
impacting these other seven pieces?
I think it impacts all of them, to be honest. When you think about it, like when I shared my first experience of like really being aware that I need to stop, that was a choice, right? A choice
Mhm.
that I made.
Mhm.
And in that choice, it was like, okay, I'm going to value life now. Like, it's not a joke.
Yeah.
Like, life is such a precious gift.
Mhm.
And then with that, for me, it's really choosing people, which is, I guess, the environment, choosing people that I can trust and share my
Mhm.
journey with
Mhm.
and be open and, saying, hey, I'm starting therapy. Can you pray for me?
Mm. Mhm.
Hey, like, I'm starting this new thing, like, pray for me, support me. And just
Mhm.
being honest with, um, my friends. And it's interesting because environment, from my shift from Atlanta to California, it was so crucial for my first year being here because I just hit the hikes. Like,
Mm.
that was how I found rest. And here in Loma Linda, there are so many, and I know you can do that also in the city, but there's something different about the
Yeah.
mountains that I personally needed,
Mhm.
and I found so much restoration in that.
Mhm. Wow.
And of course, that comes with the A, which is activity. I mean, I
Mhm.
swim. Like,
Yeah.
look at that, And I mean, building like the flowers, like that's all activity.
Mhm.
But yet it gives me rest.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
and I think one of the biggest things is in this process, in my journey, having a better outlook, knowing that I can trust in God, knowing that like this is not the end and I am learning and every day is something new. And having that positivity, knowing that, it's not the end of the world, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm. Mhm.
it gives me a boost,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, I think rest is definitely in all of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
I can
And
definitely see how it all like is part of this healthy new you, really.
yeah. 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 And it makes me think of on which day was it? I think it was on the first day, yeah, with choice. We looked at the word halt, and this was about making good how um, when you're trying to make a good choice.
Mm,
Don't do it when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right? So there's that rest
right.
piece.
Right.
How many of our choices are
That's
terrible
deep.
because we're tired, right?
That's so deep. Yeah.
So just getting more rest, not just sleep,
Right.
but
Yes.
getting more restoration
Mm-hmm.
will then help us to make the better choices in all these other areas, and even just have the will to make
Right.
these better choices, right?
Right. And I think that's such a great word, Michaela, the will, because sometimes we may not get it right. But once
Mhm.
you have the will, you give that in the hands of God, he's going to come, like he's going to bring it back and
Mhm.
he's going to remind you and you're going to be like, okay, I have the will. Like,
Mhm.
and it will happen,
Yeah.
and uh once we have that trust, okay, I want to make these choices, these healthier choices, and I'm putting them in your hands, God, like he's going to take care of that.
Mhm.
And you have
Mhm.
to trust that he's got your back.
Mhm.
You
Mhm. Yep. It's like we've opened the door to
Yeah.
his his activity in our lives, and he's just like
He's like, he's waiting for you to open the door. He's waiting for that will. Like, just let me in. And once you open that door, he's like, you can't get rid of me now. Like, I got you unlocked.
like
Uh,
I'm picturing him like play cool, like so excited,
He's so excited inside. Yes, I love it. I love
Oh
it.
man, oh man. Okay, let's see. Let's we don't have a ton of time left, so I'm trying to see which question to ask you here. Um, yeah, are there things that you have treasured, not just liked, but are there things
Mm,
that you have treasured that you've had to give up so that you can rest? Right? So what has rest cost you, so to speak?
yeah. I think part of being raised in a household where giving back to others is treasured, like that was such a huge part of me. It's still a part of me. Like
Mhm.
work is a part of me.
Mhm.
It's so interesting. The more work I get, the more energy. I'm like, yes, like I get excited. But knowing that I have to rest and knowing that my body needs restoration and my mind and my spirit and my soul needs restoration, it means that I have to say no to things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's hard because I want to say yes to everything because I'm a person that cares. I'm a person that loves deeply. I'm a person that wants to be involved. I'm a person that wants to be present. Um, but sometimes knowing that I need to first take care of me,
Mhm.
and in saying no to those things, it hurts. It hurts
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes, being transparent, like with my husband, like I could be in tears about like how I want to do so much more.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
But I know that I shouldn't, and I know that I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's gonna be okay, right? Like
Yes.
like the situation, the whatever, like it's not gonna fall apart
Right.
because you said no, you
Right.
know? And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that's part of why I want to help. It's because I feel like I'm necessary, you know? And my mom would always say to my dad, who's also a pastor, you are not the only option.
Mm,
And but sometimes, especially when you really love something,
yeah.
um, and you see like your gifts at use, and it's hard to take yourself out of the equation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
others won't necessarily see the need to take you out of the equation either, right? Like they're going to see your skills, see your track record, whatever it may be, and
Mhm.
say, hey, this is a person I've got to ask. I've got to
Yeah.
involve them in this. They need to be
Right.
part of this. It's going to take a very special, sensitive, attuned, discerning person to be able to say, actually, I think maybe not this time,
Right.
but more often than not, like we can't bank on somebody else making that kind of a decision for us. We've
Right.
got to be able to say, no, not now. It
Right.
would be nice though if other people would. I have an elder actually who's always reminding me. He's like, "You're doing too much," and I'm just like, "But what is
Mhm.
too much?"
I know, right? And then sometimes when people tell me that, I'm like, but really, am I? Like, I could do a lot more.
A lot more.
Yeah, but I think there's beauty because beauty in saying no, right? Because
Mhm.
not only does that value your life, your rest, it also opens the doors for other people to do ministry and for other
Yeah.
people to be involved.
Yeah.
Um, and you're right, not everybody can do everything. That's why we have community.
Right.
That's why
Right.
we all take a piece of the pie and we work
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's one of the things for sure that was the cost. And um, I don't know, I have to bring this back, but there was a time where I really enjoyed binging Netflix. It was
Mm.
very unhealthy, but I did treasure it. It's very
Mm.
transparent. It was one of my coping mechanisms.
Mhm.
And knowing that that can be a default,
Yeah.
but is one of the things that I had to limit was television.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Because you can just put on thing and then you're there for the whole day, and what happened?
Right.
Like nothing. You
Right.
did not restore your soul. If anything, you made it more anxious.
Right, right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. So in the couple minutes that we have left, what have you gained? I mean, it has cost you, on a certain level to learn to rest, but what has rest given you?
It has given me peace.
Mm.
Um, like there I don't know how to explain it, but there's just this calmness to life. And even though I do struggle with anxiety, being able to have rest has given me that positive outlook that I'm good. Like, God's got this. I'm on a journey. And
Mhm.
that is just so peaceful for me. And I think it is definitely also given me lots of joy.
Mhm.
Like, joy in valuing my life, joy in valuing God's nature,
Mhm.
um, being outside more, enjoying activity. There's just so much to gain when your body has been restored and when your soul is restored. It's like you're happy.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
you're good. It's like that natural high when you go for a run, and after a run, you have runner's high. It's just like one of those like, oh, I'm good, and
Mhm.
that's what rest gives me. That's what I've gained, and I will definitely not go back. And
Mm,
I can't wait to see where I will be 5 years from now, because
awesome.
I know it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be just as intentional and maybe even deeper. So,
Mm, mm-hmm. Oh man. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for
of
sharing. Thank you for being
course.
honest. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been good. This has been really, really good.
Yes.
And to those of you watching, thank you for joining us, whether you're joining us live or watching later on. Thank you for being here. And remember to comment so that I know that you're here. And if you have the book, remember to go to the back of the chapter, to the end of the chapter, I should say, and do some of those exercises to deepen your understanding of rest. I will be back with you tomorrow with another special guest, looking at the word trust, because boy, we need it. So thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everyone.
Of course, Michaela.
Take
Have a good
care.
evening. Bye.